For this week's video, I thought we could talk about patience or impatience, because I've noticed this week, we're recording this on Thursday, and as many of you know, we had the US election here on Tuesday, and as of the last time I checked, there were no definitive results, and I have noticed myself at times feeling impatient to get those results. And what I realize is that when I'm having that experience of impatience, I'm in the misunderstanding that somehow my well-being is outside of me, that I will feel better when I have those results, or I need to know. And that all that's going on is that I'm forgetting that well-being resides within in that moment in time. And then I started to expand my exploration of impatience, how it shows up in my life. And this hopefully will benefit you.
Oh, good.
Because I realized that, oh yeah, I can be impatient with you too. And it's the same thing going on when I think that you're doing something too slowly, or when I get judgmental about things like that, that my impatience is really just a reflection in that moment of forgetting my okayness is independent from whatever the circumstances or whatever that you're doing.
Yeah, I guess impatience would be another opportunity to see, here's a check engine light coming on, telling me I've kind of got myself out of the present and got myself into some sort of, I don't know, negative future fantasy about this specific result being the way that I want it to be. And not
or person being the way I want them to be.
Or person I want them to be the way they're wanting to be. And then seemingly having no control over that. And I think that's always where I get myself into difficulty. My ego is desperately wanting to be in control of this situation. And the fact that it's not, generally, it's just constantly looking for what is the solution? How can we get this under control? How can we have this situation be the way that we want it to be? And then I'll get into rumination around that. And then, the downward spiral kicks in. I was thinking about how years ago when we first came to LA, and we were doing quite a lot of traveling. And I think that at that point we only had the one car. So this was pre-cell phone, or actually maybe it wasn't pre-cell phone. I don't know. It was the early days of cell phone technology. I don't know that it was something that we could necessarily rely on in the way that we do today. But I remember there'd be the odd occasion where I would have to come and pick you up from LAX. And I think I had been lulled into this full sense of security that I could just whiz in and whiz out. And we both figured out that the best way to do it is that I would meet you on the forecourt and I'd pick you up that way. And for whatever reason, I don't know if we did have a cell phone at that point, because now we got it down to a fine art. But in those days, I remember thinking, we had made this pre-arrangement, I'll pick you up on the forecourt. And for whatever reason, when I got to LAX, it's just insanely busy. And I basically had to keep on driving round and round. and the smart thing would have been to park up. And then I would have had, I would have completely circumnavigated this whole need to be stressed out. Because what else was happening is the car was running out of gas. I didn't have much gas.
This is only one time. You didn't do this every time, did you?
No, I didn't. That was once bitten, twice shy on that front. I never did that again. But because we hadn't made any prior arrangement, it's I just kept thinking I'll just have to keep driving around. And I was getting closer and closer to running out of gas. Your plane was delayed. Anyway, the reason I share this story is kind of that's how I see my ego in those situations. It's kind of looking for the perfect results. And in a sense, in that pursuit, it's kind of in my head, I'm driving around LAX, round and round and round, getting more stressed out, and I have no idea what the solution is. So the best thing that I can do is just park up and leave it alone, leave those thoughts alone, and just wait for the solution to manifest it and appear. And absolutely, I've had those moments around the election where I'm I just want to know the result. I'll be so much happier when I know the result. But it's just completely out of my control. So why waste any bandwidth? And again, in the same way I would drive around LAX, causing myself undue stress and anxiety, when I can just leave it alone. It's a choice. I can leave it alone and, let the powers that be figure it out. But no amount of rumination on my part is going to change the result. And I think that, yeah, this is an example that we can give around the election, but it, that manifests itself in all kinds of different ways.
Yeah. And what I realize is that patience, which I definitely can get better at being more patient, is simply the natural byproduct of remembering that I'm okay in the moment. And that when I'm okay in the moment, just patience is a non-issue. And that when I'm feeling impatient, it's because I'm not feeling okay in the moment. And rather than trying to force myself to be patient in those moments where I've forgotten that I'm okay, the direction to look in is simply into remembering where well-being actually resides, where peace of mind is really found, and that when I can come back to that, everything else flows from there.
Yeah, I think it was something that Eckhart Tolle may have written about the ego cannot survive in the present. So in terms of what you're saying now, it's actually a clear indicator to me that I've got out of the present. I've kind of moved away from my essential nature, which is one of patience. And the impatience is a sign that I've completely divorced myself from that part of myself. And just to be suspicious about that alone would be really helpful. If I can actually ignore it and allow myself to not get on board that train of thought, then I'm doing myself a great service. But to actually see it as the check engine light coming on, as a signal that I've kind of lost the plot, that would be really helpful.
And I'm really grateful that you shared that LAX story, because now when I start to think I need to know the answer, when is it going to come in, I'm going to think about you driving around LAX, stressed out, sweating, wondering when I'm going to get in.
But that's kind of how I feel around impatience. That's definitely the thought that comes up for me. I'm sort of scanning the hard drive, looking for the answer, imagining all these sort of potential scenarios in my head of how it could be different, or how you could be different, how the result can be different. And it's just an indication that I've kind of I've moved off my center. I've moved out of my sense of presence of what is, and I'm in a place of complete non-acceptance. And that is the realm of the ego for me. It's the ego cannot exist in the present. And if I'm not in the present, I'm probably not where I need to be. So it's a very good awareness. Not that I've mastered it by any stretch of the imagination, but I have the intention to continue looking in that direction. That seems really valuable.
We're all learning. And I'm sure that circling LAX is one of those levels of hell. Is it Dante that had the different layers of hell?
It is.
You can have your own personal levels.
And it's kind of hell to me would be, madness would be another way to describe hell. And it's doing the same thing. Is it Einstein that says doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result?
Different result.
Different result
right,
is the first sign of madness. That, for me, that feels like pure stress and anxiety.
Einstein has a lot of quotes attributed to him.
Yeah, he's prolific on that front.
All right, well, have a great weekend, everybody. Hopefully you can enjoy the present moment, relax, take care of yourself, and remember where your well-being resides.
Yeah, peace.